At least 3 hours had passed since Jesse visited young David in his room as the lad prayed out to the Most High, sneaking out from the front door as his father slept, a time that David waited for, shivering in fear as he held the javelin that he chiseled out of stone and clay for weeks hence. As he wandered in the thickets, past the flat meadow separating his father's herd of sheep from the shrub-like vegetation where the killer of a young lamb roamed, he felt his heart racing. It was extremely dark, and the cold precipitation did not help his shiver. David prayed to the Most High to give him strength and courage. He knew that he walked through the valley of the shadow of death, and that evil was all around him, a type of evil that prevented him to shake fear. He knew that the killer of his young lamb, raised from underneath the shelter of his benevolence, was no easy feat when pertaining to getting vengeance. The lamb used to follow David through the pastures, clinging unto him with a bond even greater than the one that the lamb possessed for his own mother when he was alive. The lamb seemed as if it were mesmerized by the harmony of songs, as David practiced on the harp that his father built for him when he was a little boy. David named the young lamb Harp after the instrument that the animal would bellow to as David churned the strings, as the notes would percussion off of his black woolly coat that matched Harp's. The young lamb was convinced that David was just like him, viewing David as his guardian. It was only a couple of days ago when the lion leaped out of the bushes onto Harp, striking him down to the ground. But the lamb leaped onto the lion in an attempt to save his own life, fighting back as if the mismatch was not relevant, ignoring the size disadvantage that guaranteed death for anything so small in comparison. It was a spectacle that no human being has ever witnessed in the entire history of mankind. To see a lamb fight a lion was an extremely rare event that harbored a miraculous sighting. The lamb bought time for his shepherd as David fled. David was shamed by this and would refuse to tell his father the whole truth, blaming the scratches on his wrist as a testament of him trying to fight off a lion to save the sheep, instead of falling on sharp pebbles as he ran in fear, looking for cover to hide from the killer beast as the young lamb was obliterated inside of the lion's incredible jaws of 720 pounds per square inches of force. His father, Jesse, did not believe him. Quite frankly, Jesse would not have believed him even if he told the truth. Lions were not known to roam the area. The worst probable scenario, getting attacked by a wild dog. But who can't handle a wild dog? It was a lion with a huge mane. Every mane follicle looked pronounced, sticking straight out with a sharpness of blades, shining in the sun with the ointment of oils that seemed self-grooming. David asked God to help him bring vengeance for that young lamb that was slaughtered, but first asking God to forgive him for lying to his father. The feeling of remorse allowed him to ask the Most High for forgiveness, but the lack of courage could not get him to ask the same forgiveness from his father for lying to him. He could only ask his father for forgiveness for the death of the lamb that he couldn't hide, but asking forgiveness for lying was too unbearable. David heard a rumbling about 40 yards ahead of him. He stopped in mid-tracks, kneeling in the open plain. It did not take long before the lion who killed his beloved possession showed himself from the bushes, standing tall while glaring at David with glistening eyes of fury that glowed in the moonlight. David held up the javelin, but became frozen. He couldn't move. Fright begat his rigidness, stuck as a breathing statue. The lion slowly approached David's still pose, sniffing him all over. He glared in David's face, up close, piercing in his eyes with a look of death. It was so overwhelming for the young lad that he fainted on the ground, with the javelin dropping right beside him.